Welcome to Practice Your Pause, where I speak to guest experts about how they nourish, reconnect with, and support their nervous system when they're stressed. My guest today is Sally Moon, who is a certified meditation coach, EFT practitioner, and a mentor for grief. I'm so excited for you to meet her. Sally Moon is a gem, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her. But first, I want her to introduce herself. So, Sally Moon Lee, please introduce yourself. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you serve.
Oh, thank you, Mukta. So awesome being here. I'm Sally Moon Lee of Sally Moon Meditation. I am so happy to be here with you as a certified meditation coach and tapper. I love supporting folks who get it, who get what it's like to feel overwhelmed while struggling with grief. You know, because grief shows up in many ways as bereavement, pet loss, estranged relationships, separation. We often feel isolated while we process grief, and so often life gets in the way, that we actually don't have the time to fully process and heal. I help people create more inner peace so the emotional healing can happen and serve those who are just worn out, stressed, and overwhelmed and are looking to get back into meditation or begin.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So, could you tell us a little bit about what drew you to meditation and to tapping?
Yeah, I started meditating several years ago, and honestly, at first I hated it. I thought, I am such a bad meditator because I couldn't focus, and I thought it was meant for folks who could just sit like a pretzel, so why get into it? But life still happens. And at a time when I felt super sad all the time, when medication and therapy was just not enough for me personally, that's when I gave meditation another go. And what made it different this time is that I tuned into myself as an individual without the bullshit and expectations of what meditation's traditionally is supposed to look like,
Hmm.
and found techniques that were fun and attainable for me
Hmm.
because, it's not going to be fun if it's not attainable. I saw meditation with, just a new excitement built in it without the frustration because I can let go that, I'm not going to be perfect. I just need to be me. And that's what part of being in the moment is just being myself within that moment. And that's when I fell in love with the practice, and I feel so much joy and peace that I can always return to, and it's always about that sweet return because life keeps coming at us and it's always returning to our inner peace, to our resilience. And then there's tapping, and I thought, that's weird. But well, it actually works. Tapping can relieve depression, as I know, and lack of motivation, shame, addiction, anger, even food cravings, that aren't exactly nutritious. That so many of us have them, and I can tap that out as well.
Hmm. Hmm. So interesting. So interesting. I do want to point out or pause kind of at what you said about, if it's not going to be fun, it won't be attainable, because that's
Mm,
the exact same thing that I share with my clients. It's got to be fun, it's got to feel good. What feels good sticks. And so it's really about listening, tuning in, listening to your body, and really working out what is feeling good to you. And I also love what you said about meditation, which is a return to yourself, because
mm,
sometimes when I meditate, I do feel like it's a vacation. I know it sounds a bit trite, but it does, it feels like it's a vacation from my brain. Like my brain is
mhm.
finally giving me a break. And I just get to sit, and I know it's like my brain is still racing, but I just get to sit. There's like nowhere to be. So I
Yeah,
really
the
love
sweet
that.
pause.
Um, yeah, it's so amazing. And that's what we're talking about, the pause, the practicing your pause.
Hmm.
So before we go into tapping, because I'm not super familiar with tapping, I would love to hear why you decided to focus on grief.
Yeah. The way I see it is that by focusing on the grief, we can then focus on the healing.
Mhm.
Because I know that grief is so debilitating. Several years ago, I lost my job because I called in sick way too many times. And I just want to lie in fetal position with my cat all day. And it took me a while, honestly, to figure it out how to deal with myself, because there's therapy. And for me, and this is, I'm just talking from my experience, it was just a vent session, and I'm like, oh, I have to wait till next week so I can,
Yeah,
vent more. But what
yeah.
can I do in between that I can give to myself, that's natural, that won't give me side effects, and that will actually like get me to a point where I can not just only get through the day, but feel grounded and feel more resilient and stronger. And that's why I'm so passionate about my work, because meditation is so needed for our mental health. And there's so many studies, and
Mhm.
it's just now becoming the mainstream, right?
First of all, I love that you shared that you got into this because of um, grief from losing a job, because it's not something that we necessarily think about, right? You don't think about losing a job, kind of having that grief. And I love that you used meditation and tapping as ways to build, like you said, that inner resilience. Because again, we have so many coping mechanisms out there, and I know therapy is amazing. Um, but I'm also loving the fact that you're like, no, I got to figure this out and figure out how I'm not dependent on therapy in
Yeah.
order to just, I mean, to live, right? To sort things out so that the next time I'm going through this, I have a means to deal with it.
Hmm.
So it's a kind of a really long-winded way of saying I'm loving it. I'm loving what you're bringing to um, to the world, and I want to hear more about tapping. So um, let's talk about tapping, because the conversation, the topic for this conversation today is tap and breathe. And so, how would you describe tapping? What is it exactly?
Yeah, tapping, which is formerly known as EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques, is a very simple and effective technique that combines modern psychology and ancient acupressure. And the way it works is that when we focus on a thought, emotion, or a belief that causes stress or any other challenge, as we tap on the acupressure points, we're actually sending messages to the brain that, hey, it's okay, it's safe to relax. And
Mm.
serotonin, the chemical that regulates our mood and gives us that uplifting feeling, is then released and our cortisol levels go down. And there's something so very powerful when we acknowledge our own thoughts and emotions, to actually hear our voice out loud. Because a lot of times we hear our voice in our heads, but
Mhm.
to literally hear it, and that's when I go back and talk about the acknowledgement, which is such a takeaway. If there's anything to take away from this, is that to acknowledge that is part of what we're feeling, any challenge or
Mhm.
belief that doesn't serve us, to acknowledge that that's the release, that's part of the healing. And we can't do that without acknowledging that, and to do that in such a way where you're saying out loud, any concern or fear or, whatever it is, you're struggling with, to say that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so while we do that, yeah, it's stimulating our own action pressure points, the energy points. We are creating more balance, more flow, so that way the healing can occur.
Mhm. Mhm. And so it kind of leads me to my next question of the benefits of tapping. And I think you answered that in terms of sort of the stress release. Sounds like there's a little bit of that, when you name what you're going through, you can be more present with it as well. But let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits.
Yeah, well, I noticed there's a shift in when I'm working with clients, it's a shift in their mood, and they tell me that they actually feel a release, that they feel lighter physically, like this weight's taken off of them, and that's because the challenge collapse, and it's and they sometimes will even laugh like towards the end of the session because the challenge as they're tapping and acknowledging to themselves and having that release that I was mentioning, it just makes you feel like in a different energy of more lighter, like that release, and it comes out in different ways for different people. Even some people will yawn, just to get that out and that release, or they'll just feel more bouncy, or it depends on the individual.
Yeah, so cool. So, I would love for you to give us a demonstration. If someone hasn't heard of tapping before, what does it look like? And maybe specifically around stress. If someone is like really stressed, I personally can attest to having had several instances this year alone where I've just been like in this like shaky, like, oh my God, like so
Mm,
stressed because not because I have, not because there's a life or death situation in any way, right? But it's because I've taken on so much work that I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And so
mhm,
I had to sort of talk myself, not talk myself out of it, but like do journaling and really, do that sort of release from that angle, like really naming the emotions and um, just feeling just better afterwards. But how would tapping have maybe been something that I could have used in situations like that? I don't know if that's like a really, if that's an applicable question to even ask. Um,
yeah. And that's the thing with stress because it's so universal, right?
mhm,
And so, first of all, I'd love to give a demo and this just to, communicate that this is not meant to be a tap along, just to
yeah,
show a little of what the process looks like, there's more to it in an actual session.
mhm,
And so, just to give an example of how it can be used to complement with meditation. And
mhm,
as a meditation coach, I support where the client's at, help them gain clarity, teach them how to meditate more effectively, and
mhm,
with love and kindness, help keep them accountable with their goals. And so, when we're talking about stress, yeah, it's just so often, like clients come to me and say, hey, I'm having trouble meditating this week because there's a lot going on. And,
mhm,
I'm just feeling really overwhelmed and I just don't have the headspace. So, with tapping, with any issue, first we need to identify it. What is the issue?
mhm,
And so, for instance, if the client's feeling stressed and, that's getting away of their meditation practice or just getting away of life, right?
mhm, mhm,
And yeah, so first you want to give it a score from 0 to 10. Like, how stressed are you feeling right now? Like 0 being not at all, 10 being completely maxed out. And then next, yeah, we begin with a setup phrase which identifies the issue while offering affirmation to ourselves. And we tap on the side of the hand as we repeat the setup statements. I like to do it 3 times.
mhm,
And as you're saying out loud each phrase, say it with feeling. You really want to be in the presence of not just hearing your voice, acknowledging what's going on for you or how you're feeling about it, but also physically, like bring it up, be present with it. So, for example, even though I am too stressed out to meditate.
Mhm.
I really like and accept myself. All this feeling of overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed and it's really getting in the way. And I really like and accept myself. I am stressed as fuck. And I really like and accept myself. And then next, we tap on the various points on the body as we say the reminder phrase. And the basic points are, and I'll take my glasses off, the eyebrow, side of the eye, under the eye, under the nose, chin, collarbone. And I just want to pause right there because I get so excited about this point because when we're talking about stress, this is the go-to point. It feels so grounding. And it's acoustic too. Just listen to yourself. It feels like a drum. And so it's known also as K27 acupuncture point, which is located above the breastbone and right below your collarbone. In between, there's like a small soft spot. So if you put like 3 fingers on each hand and just tap along it, and there's just something so grounding about it. And then the underarm point, which is located just about 4 inches down from the armpit. And again, this is meant to be a quickie. I go over each point, more in detail with my clients to help them locate specifically. Yeah, so as we tap on these points, we tap on these points as we say the reminder phrase. The reminder phrase just keeps your brain focused on the issue that you're working on. So after the setup phrase, it looks something like this. All the stress is getting in the way. I am so stressed out and it's so in the way. So in the way. Feel it in my face. Feeling so overwhelmed. Feel it in my body. I am really stressed. And then I like to do a nice cleansing breath in and out. And then after a round or two, check in with yourself. What is your score like now from 0 to 10? Then keep doing another tapping round and check back in. What's the score like? And repeat until the score goes down, until the challenging emotion or issue goes down to at least a 2, which is awesome. Most often it will go down, and if it doesn't, that's okay, because that's actually a good thing. It means that there's something else going on that we may not be aware of at first that needs tapping out. Sometimes the clients meet with me for a session and want to tackle that one issue, right, that comes up. But then we discover it's really about something deeper when the core issue isn't recognized, and when we need to get to the other layers. It's like peeling back an onion. So with a practitioner, to help guide through that process. And that's when the healing starts.
That's amazing. I love it. I mean, I definitely would love to do a full session at some point. How long do you think the sessions typically take? Like if you were to
Yeah,
do
it's usually an hour, the
an hour?
session.
Okay. And is this something that practitioners, or is it something that people can kind of learn to do by themselves? I mean, I think you said for you it was part of your healing journey, right? And
Hmm.
so, how would that work, or is it that you kind of have to be guided a few times to kind of learn the
Yeah.
ropes?
Yeah. One of the things I love about tapping is like meditation is very DIY.
Mhm.
However, I really encourage newbies not at first to go free range. And
Mhm.
for anyone who's not getting the results needed, a practitioner can help with that.
Mhm.
Because I guide my clients through the process so they can get the best results and learn how to practice on their own.
Mhm. And I imagine it would be different for different situations, right? So, like for
Mhm.
stress, you would be kind of, I mean, you have a different phrase, but then also potentially different points, for fatigue, and for any kind of issue that you're working with. So thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's a really deep part of your own practice, so I really appreciate you bringing it to this session. Um, let me see if there's any other questions I had for you. Anything else that you would like to share about tapping or meditation that we didn't cover? I mean, I know this is a really short session anyway, but anything that you know
Yeah.
you wanted to clarify about meditation or tapping?
Yeah, there's so much,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
know, I know.
on my YouTube, Sally Moon, there's a video I posted to give another example of tapping.
Okay, cool.
And the topic is actually feeling awkward making videos on social media. And I will be uploading
For
more
me.
videos, so stay tuned for more.
That's awesome. I should actually do that because I feel very awkward making videos for social media. So that would be really helpful for I think a lot of people. And I will post the link in the caption as well so that
Oh,
people can get
great.
to it. How and where can we find you?
Yeah, I can be found at sallymoonmeditation.com and Instagram at sallymoon.meditation and the YouTube, which is Sally Moon. And at this time, I just want to mention too that I'm offering a complimentary consultation, which is just an opportunity to meet and see how I can best support you and hear more about my offerings. And always feel free to reach out and email me if you have any questions. Yeah, so just visit my website where you can schedule your session. And yeah, I would love to hear from you.
I do want to give your website a shout out because it's beautiful. And as a fellow business owner, I know that websites are a real pain to get up and running, and yours looks so beautiful. So
Oh, thank
well
you.
done. Go check out Sally Moon at her website and on Instagram and her YouTube. And if you want to learn more about tapping, definitely sign up for her consult. It's free, and you'll get to learn more about Sally Moon and how she works as well, and spend some time with her because if you haven't noticed already, just her entire calming presence is just so beautiful. So it's much needed in this world. So thank you so much, Sally Moon, for bringing it. And if you have questions, you can either drop them in this YouTube video or you can send them to Sally Moon. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you again for spending some time with me today, Sally Moon. And
Oh, thank
um,
you. It's been
I'm
a
sure we'll
pleasure.
be talking more soon. Thank you.
Thank you.